Hey everyone, and welcome to the second episode of Behind the Blocks. So I'm here today with the fabulous and wonderful, and we love her, and I'm just going to shower her in praises for a second, Creative Director, UGW Lavender.
Hi. And the just sort of okay me.
Yes, and of course behind the wheel we have Kels Bells.
Hi, Kels.
And today we're very excited to give you guys a sneak peek into what Q.U.I.R.K was before it actually even was Q.U.I.R.K at that point, right?
Yeah.
Of course, we are going to be taking chat questions. So if you have any questions for the lovely Lavender, let us know in chat. We'll be taking your questions throughout the show while we show off what we have. So.
Absolutely. I'm excited about this show because it really gets to demonstrate some of the genesis of our project. And I'm also stoked to be sitting here with one of my dearest friends and one of my favorite people to work with, me. No, I'm kidding. Jeanne. So I want to just give a quick little historical peek into sort of how we got here. Jeanne and I first met while I was working at NCSoft on a game called WildStar. That's when I fell in love. She flew down to California, hung out with us at the Carbine studio, really helped create the visual experience and the user experience around our web stuff. It really revolutionized the way that I look at how people look at web stuff. And yeah, like I said, we fell in love, connected over that. And then, you know, as transitions occurred, I was moving from California up to Seattle, and I let Jeanne know, and because she had reached out to be very kind to me, had some kind of a family tragedy, and came up to Seattle, and she said, "You're moving to Seattle, come talk to me." And she was like, "How dare you?" And it was funny. She actually reached out and she said, "Hey, do you know any community peeps?" And I said, "Yeah, I am." And she was like, "What?
Come work for me."
And I was like, "Okay." So we met up, and I think we had Thai food.
Yep.
And we talked, and it was great. Met the team, of course. For me, all I needed was this woman. Then we worked together very closely at Motiga.
Yep.
It was because of our collaboration together that we were able to do some fairly innovative, groundbreaking community programs like the Community Coaches,
right,
which helped us meet this lovely, talented woman. And so both of us transitioned out of Motiga to kind of follow our own bliss, as it were.
Right.
And at that point, a friend of mine said, a friend of ours now, said, "Hey, we want to start a studio." He and I have been talking about it forever. Jeanne and I, lamenting our experiences in the past with leadership and stuff, were like, we should just do our own thing. And we actually were collaborating together, working with other studios and doing some consulting. And when Jess LeBeau reached out, I said, "Yeah, absolutely, but I won't go anywhere without Jeanne." And yeah, that's kind of the quick and dirty of it all. But yeah, you were in at the ground floor.
Absolutely.
And we were all in it together as founders. And it's been a pretty awesome, I mean, how many years has that been? It seems like decades, but that's not.
At least 7.
At least 7.
Yeah.
Holy smokes. Also, just to get a clearer understanding of what Jeanne does, Jeanne is a master of the user experience, both in the real world, so around events and planning, and she is also one of the most talented community managers that I know. She doesn't hold the title, but she has the heart and the love for it. She gets what it is that we're trying to do.
Oh my God, it was so lovely. Like going back when I was a coach, having Jeanne as just guidance and being there during the events, and just always somebody you could go to if you had any problems, if you needed to talk, if and anything at all.
And Jeanne has a tactical mind. She's able to get what it is we're trying to accomplish, but then step in front of problems before they happen, and not be afraid to say, "You know what, this isn't working." I mean, you got 50 people who are demoing a game to thousands of people in a day. That's crazy.
It was crazy.
Yeah. Design,
fun.
crazy fun, right? It's like you get that feeling. We talked about it before. You get that feeling after summer camp where you're exhausted.
It was summer camp,
but
absolutely.
you cry a little bit. And we have made lifelong friends because of that.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So, master of user experience in the digital space as well, and is really able with our project to flex her muscles and create an in-game user experience that makes sense. And I love it. Here's the other thing you might not know about Jeannie, or Genius as we call her. She has shipped, what did we say, over 50 games?
Yeah, about 50.
About 50 games.
50?
Yeah.
Wow.
Addie says hi, Mommy.
Hi, Addie.
Hi, Addie. She's also a devoted mother, a wonderful work wife, and I'm assuming a wonderful wife. I'll presume that
better
to be
say
the
yes.
case. Yeah, absolutely. Both Timber and I can sit here and spend hours just
this will
this is
just
just going to be
be- this is it.
compliment Jeannie show. The beautiful thing is all of this stuff is true. There and is really, we're not, there's no hyperbole here. We're not exaggerating. As a matter of fact, we're kind of ratcheting it down a little bit.
Yeah,
because,
I think so.
Yeah, true amazing talent, and thank you for hanging out for our second Behind the Block show.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah,
it's
absolutely.
fun.
So that's kind of some background, so you kind of know who Jeannie is and how much she has impacted both Timber and I as
The glue.
professionals. The glue.
She is the glue.
Absolutely. It is also funny too, because I'm a community manager. I'm not an art person, and so I'll look at something, I'll be like, "That's pretty," and Jeannie will be like, "No, that's not pretty."
That is my favorite thing when making assets. So all the assets you see online go through Genius approval.
Yeah.
So I'll make something, and Troy will look at it and be like, "Yeah, that looks great," and I'll send it over to her, and she'll just make even like the smallest thing that I didn't catch. She'll like just move something over, and
you're like,
and
"Oh,
it's,
yeah,
and it's
that's
1,000
better."
times better somehow. Like, wow.
Totally agree.
Yeah.
Wow.
Experiences like that.
It's hilarious. Here's the other thing, uncanny. This woman's ability to get in front of colors, shapes, and trends. So, we embrace
She's
the
so
purple stuff. We embrace the color purple. It happens to be one of our favorite colors.
Yes.
But
Best color ever.
Best color ever.
Yep.
The color that she picked then ahead of Pantone's announcement of the color of the year is our color. Like, she is on it. She is on the vanguard of like layout and web design to the degree that you create a site and then the industry copies you, and that's
true.
not a lie.
That's
it's
true.
absolutely true. So there's her bona fides, and she is most definitely a bona fide. It's also great that she's a wonderful human being, so we get to sit down and talk. The only complaint I have,
Yes.
Jeannie never lets me mess with anybody.
No.
She'll hear me screw him with something, like trying to prank him, and from across the room, she'll scream something that I can't say on this
He's
family
full of
program.
bleep.
Yeah. Expletive.
Love and joy.
Or lie.
Lie, yeah, that happens too.
Yeah,
So
so
that's really
I,
my
pr-
only
I
complaint.
protect the innocent from your trolling.
You
It's
you really do.
If you guys are ever concerned about what Troy has said, run it by Jeannie. She will not.
You have found
I
my
will validate.
weakness.
Yeah.
She's like my prank kryptonite.
Yes.
You guys
Yeah.
are yin and yang.
We are. We really are. I mean,
Yeah.
that's true in many, many different ways. Like, I have these great ideas, and then Jeannie actually helps me get them done. So, enough about you. Let's talk about you.
Yeah, you're just gonna get.
Awesome.
Talk a little bit about, I know we've got we've got some art to show off and
Yeah,
the history
all
of
that
things, but it is a little frightening, I'm imagining. I know the answer to this. But when you think about becoming a founder of a studio and what that means, especially with a small team. Talk to me a little bit about, like, what was your thought process when I came to you and said, hey,
Here's an idea.
I'm not doing this without you.
Right on. I'm like, it's about time. Yeah. Honestly, I think, the idea of doing a small studio was never anything that was scary for me. Super excited about the opportunity to kind of be in on the ground floor. I've only gotten to do that on a couple of games where I was actually there from ground zero, and there's something super special about that opportunity. Also being able to be super involved in like building the team and super involved in like what the culture of the studio is going to be, what the product was going to focus on, like having an impact and ability to influence all levels.
Absolutely.
Was something I was super excited about. As you know, I've worked on a lot of games and I've done a lot of little pieces of a lot of little things. And so Gigantic and then this was that opportunity to kind of really build something
across
from
discipline,
the ground up.
Yeah, absolutely. The other thing that you're great at is really both through discipline, like saying, hey, we got to get this stuff done. You know, let's get it done.
Right.
But also, you do care about birthdays and the culture of a studio, and you really contribute a lot to that.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, everyone has
sorry.
ASMR cup sounds. Sorry. I didn't want to. It's such a good story.
No, say it.
I love it. Sorry. Yeah, normally I'd like find something.
Yeah.
I always thought it was Troy.
No, yeah, it's me being silly. But yeah, so that, you know, also we spent a lot of time just talking about what Q.U.I.R.K was going to be before Q.U.I.R.K had a name.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And getting to kind of figure out what the art style was going to be and kind of what, you know, was going to resonate with this team.
Yeah,
and
some of the foundational philosophical stuff as well.
Because we were literally starting from ground zero.
Yeah.
So like you end up with a million options and million possibilities, and it's like, okay, how do you narrow it down? Like, where do you find your focus? And, so many times you come in and like the game has a name and the game has a path and you know where it's going, and to get to basically make the map for that was a fun adventure.
Yeah, absolutely. And man, I can't wait until we show the video.
Oh, it's so good.
The what it was before the studio actually formed. What it is now is
So there's a question, who came up with Q.U.I.R.K? So I actually came up with the word Q.U.I.R.K.
Yeah.
As it related to, we were talking about, you know, quirks are actually like a three-dimensional orb of energy. And when you go into an actual level or map, what are we calling them now?
They're
levels.
Yeah,
When you go
levels.
into a level, you're actually like almost going into a different, you know, dimension, right?
Yeah.
And so we were like, what are these things going to be called? And came up with the word Q.U.I.R.K, and it actually means different things. We thought loosely it worked. And then this whole team actually brainstormed the acronym.
Yeah.
So we had the word before we actually had the acronym, which is crazy.
That is hilarious.
And then we came up with Quantum Universe Interaction and Replication Kit.
Yep.
And
Which fits so
which is
very
amazing.
Well. Yeah.
And
Trump has said, get that girl
that'll
a
make
fidget
noise.
spinner.
That'll make noise too. That ain't gonna help. So yeah, the fact that we were actually able to come up with an acronym that we felt really made a lot of sense
Yeah.
for a word like Q.U.I.R.K. And it just fits the style of the game because we wanted it to be, you know, really quirky and imaginative and playful and fun. And we all really liked the word Q.U.I.R.K. Like
We liked it, and it had the rare opportunity to not be taken. I mean, there are
that's always a challenge.
Surprised me
Yeah.
a lot. I was
Yes.
like, your game. How is there not like 300 games named Q.U.I.R.K? Because it's such
Right.
I think the name itself just grabs you instantly. Like
Right.
Q.U.I.R.K, it's just right there.
And that
For
it's
sure.
an acronym leaves a little mystery. You want to know what it's all about.
Right.
That also helps.
We do have a question chat. Pooloops is interested in this as well. Do you recall some of the names you kind of cycled through before getting to Q.U.I.R.K?
Oh man.
Thinking about it, what did we talk about? There were so...
I have an Excel spreadsheet somewhere.
that had all that. Yeah, I think you're right.
stumbled
Every name we ever came up with.
Yeah, yeah.
I can't remember. Isn't that terrible? That seemed like a whole lifetime ago, and it really wasn't.
It
that
really
long.
wasn't. So it's funny, Timmer, today she was like, has it been a year and a half? And I'm like, no, 2 years, 10 years, like it's been a long time. No, it's literally a year and a half.
He goes, May. I go, Troy, count how many months we have until May. And it's like literally.
It feels like it's been a lifetime.
Yeah,
It really
and the
has.
other thing too is that
super
we're
funny.
always planning like 3 to 6 to 12 months in advance, and so
And we've barely been alive for 3
for long.
to
Yeah, I
12
know,
months. Yeah.
I know. It's
crazy.
Yeah,
It is crazy.
yeah. We've definitely come a long way. The names we'll have to. I'm trying to remember. I think I had a couple great ones. I think it was T.R.O.Y.
Why?
Which was, what was it? Terrific, rad. Oh yeah.
Did Jack find the list? Did you find it? Did you find it
find
on
the
Quip?
list?
Well, share it. Yeah. Don't share it publicly because there really could be some
Yeah.
shenanigans in there. Your only interesting narwhal quirk. Yoink.
Oh, yeah,
Yoink.
Jack found it. It's in Quip somewhere.
Oh, that's hysterical.
Terrific ride. Oh, wait a minute. But yeah, so yeah, that's interesting. It was a lot of fun. And when you realize you're making such an impact on, like, people are gonna see it, so they're gonna interact with it.
Yeah.
Outside of just the naming stuff, you designed our logo.
Yep.
Both for the studio.
Yep.
And for the game. And I think we have a name for it, right? So we have the logo for the studio.
Yep.
We have the logo for the game.
Right.
The logo for the studio.
Is the
Genesis?
Genesis? Yeah, that's right.
Yeah. And then the logo for the game, is it the
Nucleus?
The
Yeah.
nucleus.
Yeah.
That's so good.
But no, anyway, yeah, really, really incredible stuff. That's a great question. We will figure out some of that stuff, and maybe Jack can actually
Run over,
print it out or whatever.
Right.
'Cause we're literally
We
right
can look
here in
at
the
it,
middle of the studio.
Yeah.
Yes, this is our setup allows for a lot of studio interaction.
Right.
Yeah,
Yeah.
This one.
that's
Yeah.
the idea. Yeah, absolutely. Cool. What do we want to jump into next?
Yeah, I think we should jump right into it. So we've had a lot of buzz about avatar customization.
Yeah.
We've been sharing with you guys some of the stuff that is not in-game yet, but is finished and waiting to, to give to you guys. So I think this is a great time to jump into what avatars maybe would have looked like when we first started this.
Yeah, scary.
It's so good. I'm looking at
It's
the image
good.
now. And yeah, we're going to look at some of the first sketches. And keep in mind, these were not done by Jack.
No.
These were done by a different artist.
Yeah, we had a couple of freelance artists work with us in the first year.
Yeah.
So
Really helping us flesh out the notion
Yep.
and the idea of what the actual
Right.
presentation would look like.
right when we were doing some exploration. So really early on, it was I had put together kind of a doc that had like general art direction. We knew we wanted to do something that had a low poly feel that kind of was inspired by papercraft and
Papercraft,
it's
yeah,
like
that's
super
right,
simple
yeah.
shapes. Very all the modeling built on geometry, so very not many textures, that kind of stuff. So keep it very simple and
Yeah.
very graphic looking. And we knew we wanted it to be pretty playful. So that was kind of the basis for everything. So you'll definitely notice everything has got kind of very sharp angles and very kind of low polyfaceted feel. But it's, you're really starting from ground zero. So when we talk about avatars, like what do we want them to look like?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
what are
What are
some of
the-
the
what's the feeling? What's the look?
Right.
What's the-
What's the basic silhouette? And these are interesting.
These are-
I'm
yeah.
really happy with where we ended up.
Yeah. And thank
yeah.
you, Ted's Friends, for the host. And thank you, Paloobs, for the host. Really appreciate
You're the
that.
best.
You guys are awesome. So yeah, let's check a look.
Thanks,
Yeah.
Jalen.
All right.
So, in the beginning, I mean, you can tell we're playing really mostly with silhouettes on what you guys are seeing on the screen right now.
8 cracks me up.
Eight is really good.
And
I like 4.
And proportions. So it was a lot about ratios of torso and legs and arms and, we go to extremes just to actually see kind of what that might look like.
And to elicit a response, right?
Sure,
People are like,
like-
I love that. Oh, ooh, that's, yeah.
Yeah. And, really the thing that we came out of through this first exercise was we definitely felt like it just felt a little too mature or didn't feel quite as playful as we wanted. So 7 is probably the closest to where we ended up.
Oh, yeah, true. Oh, thank you, Jack. No, you can come on in. Yeah, Jack.
Rolling on the floor.
This just in.
No, I want to see this.
Yes. So we did just get our
Oh my gosh,
names
this is
for Quirk
hilarious.
before
This is so
it became
good.
Quirk. So they're looking through.
There's what is this? Rhombus?
Rhombus.
Caboodle?
Caboodle. I remember this. This is alchemy.
Gizmo. Realm, Sphere, Veil. Nucleus, Verve,
Nucleus, yeah.
Gusto, Forge. Yeah, it's
Oh my God.
interesting.
That one sounded
Yeah.
like a
Yeah.
whole thing. Like, come play Gusto Forge.
But you know what? Yeah, right. Yeah, exactly. And so we've got quirks, quirky makers. What's funny about this stuff is you can see how it's circling around what the game was.
Yeah.
Because it was really the game that informed
Yes.
the name. And what's hilarious is how much of this gets baked into your subconscious because we've got Maker Monday and Maker Bill, like
nucleus, yeah.
nucleus, yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. Like we definitely stole
Right.
from this list. You know, it's a kind of an amazing, unusual opportunity and process.
Yeah.
But
Yeah, that's fun.
yeah. So there you go. Old names.
I'm gonna go on to the next one.
Yeah, let's. Boop. It goes. I just want to go back to like how super serious
That's right.
these are, and
Yeah.
then the next draft.
I think 5 might be my favorite.
I love 13.
I'm a thumb.
Obviously, we're like, okay, we're aging it down here, and we were gonna play around with the idea of chibis.
Chibi,
Right, was another type
yeah.
of like, what if we did something that's a bit more chibi-like, which had, bigger head, a smaller body. This has, less of a faceted feel, but it was, again, just a silhouette exercise to kind of see how that felt. And it was fun. And I don't necessarily, we definitely didn't end up here either.
No, we got close. Like this last unnumbered sketch. is
Yeah,
probably
yeah.
The closest.
The closest. The thing I think I got from this was I really wanted the faces to be expressive.
Yeah.
And to be unique, and definitely the aging it down a little bit so that they felt a little bit more teenager or young adult, right? Was definitely that was feeling more in line
Yeah.
with what I wanted.
Number
to
12
be.
cracked me up too.
12
Just like no brows, just
Just
Like no
tiny-
shoulders.
no shoulders.
Uh,
just-
Kind of
everyone
ragdoll.
in
Yeah.
chat is assigning themselves. Ted claims he's an 11. Loops is a 9. I can't stop looking at 5.
5 is my favorite. I mean, honestly,
Like
that
a thumb or
that might as
a
well
pill.
just
Um,
that
yeah.
might be
Do you have
me.
your pen? I could just draw.
It might just be me because I don't have a chin. I'm basically like a thumb,
All forehead.
thumb with a forehead. Rude.
22 is shredded. Oh man.
This guy has no arms at all. It's just hands.
No,
This
yeah,
really
so
big
nine.
hands,
Yeah.
no legs on the
Yeah.
other one, but
You'll see some other sketches where we did the same thing, where it was literally just a head and torso and hands and feet, like no limbs.
Yeah, yeah.
So we definitely played around with that idea a little bit, but we didn't end up.
And
there.
something that's
Yeah.
funny, and this will all come a little clearer to you when you see the video, but we were desperate for avatars. We were like, get an avatar immediately. We were not happy with what
this
you'll
one?
see, and you'll know why. There we
Ooh,
go.
this looks familiar.
So now we're getting a little closer. So that you get to kind of see the process when we get a little closer to kind of some of the things, and we'll actually do some experimentation around specific things like hands and feet, and we start doing turnarounds, so you're looking front and back. But this is really close to where we approved concept, and then you can obviously see how it's evolved in the game. But yeah.
Yeah, we're super close. Here's a question for you.
Yeah.
Do we have a notion on, or what's our thought process around differing body shapes?
In the end, and I'm super excited about that, right? We decided that we really wanted to not limit, to do, literally we're not doing male and feminine, or male, female, or, feminine and masculine. It was, let's let anybody mix anything they want to mix with anything.
Yeah.
So we didn't do, you have to be a boy, you have to be a girl, and only boys get certain items, only girls get certain items.
Yeah.
I really, really wanted it to be, you can dress and color yourself and put on any item available to you. So it gets really androgynous, and but you have the ability, depending on your choices, you can get so that it feels very feminine or feels very masculine.
But it's your choice.
It's your choice.
Yeah.
And what's
And
funny is that we made those choices not because we've got some political axe to grind or we want to,
It kinda
have controversy.
It just makes sense.
It's just like,
it's fun.
have fun.
Yeah,
Play.
I
This
wanted
is
the
dress up.
playfulness.
This is- yeah.
So that is really the inspiration behind it, right? Is that it was inspired by the idea that you were actually dressing up with found items, and that it was a lot more like costumes and more playful. So that it was like, if I wanted to have purple hair and a beard and
run around with a dress
fairy
on
wings,
and a fairy wing. Yeah,
I can, right?
Well, here's a
Yeah.
good question that Poot Loops asks, and it really is a credit to him as somebody who understands games. So when you create avatars or something that you have, like a NPC, and if you've got wildly different sizes, something that's really tall, something that's really small, it changes the way you interact with them, say when you're trying to shoot them, or you're trying to hit them, or you're trying to heal them, or do whatever.
Right.
Are we going to play around with body size? Like, are we going to have, like, people with a wider profile, longer, taller, all that kind of stuff, and how would that impact the hitbox when it comes?
Yeah,
Time to do
and that's
avatar combat.
that'll be part of the balancing is figuring out. I definitely want us to have a lot of different shapes.
Yeah.
I don't think we'll go to a real extremes. Like you won't have like a super short character and a super tall character.
No min-maxing the weight.
Right, yeah.
Yeah.
But the idea that, the different shapes of characters and, more blocky, stockier, wider, somewhat shorter, maybe
Yeah.
shorter limbs, the kinds of things. But generally you have to have the same
Silhouettes.
general hit area.
You got to take up
Right.
as like the same space.
Right.
And so, that's really a great question because it does sort of hit on why you may not see as much diversity in shapes of bodies in games is because there is a real consideration. If we've worked on this game for X amount of years, we're getting ready to ship it, and everybody is used to being able to fit through this square, and then suddenly you're super tall and you can't, that's a problem.
Yeah.
Right. The other thing is that adding every body type is an exponential amount of work. So
You're tripling, doubling,
So
quadrupling,
basically, every time you create a hat, a shirt, a head, hair, earrings, anything, right, it has to be modeled or at least weighted and all that for the specific body type. So the models are different because of the shape.
Yeah.
Right. So at least you have a baseline. You have to start from scratch.
Yeah.
But you do have to basically go in and edit it to fit the new body type.
Yeah.
So when we add a third and a fourth and a fifth body type, every item we've ever created
has to fit.
So
Yep.
somebody has to go in and touch every single one of those. So adding a new body type is going to be a big deal.
Yep.
Adding new items to existing body types is still a level of effort, but it's not like
Yeah.
actually introducing a new body type.
Right, and then Zealand, one of our artists, says, why not make the hitboxes all the same, though? It's something that we
possible,
should
yep.
probably
Yep.
play with, but the notion is, if you've got someone who's super tall and you shoot at them, you would expect it to hit.
And
Yeah.
if it's not, you're
And
gonna
if all the
think of-
hitboxes are like
yeah.
this, but your noggin's up here, that's problematic. Hey!
Yeah, here's another fun one. This isn't actually in the game yet, but we have done some exercises about what happens if we start to animate faces.
Yeah.
So it is something we're playing around with, and this is just another visual exercise of like, what does it actually look like when you do those things? Yeah.
Grampy Troy.
Grandpa Troy.
Them's fighting words.
Why, back in my day, we didn't have the internet.
How you doing,
Really
Lauren?
didn't, actually. Good to see you, Cub.
Lauren, her name's Lauren now, I hear.
Oh, is it Lauren?
Yeah, via Starbucks.
Oh. Well, hello, you.
We don't really need to look at this.
I
one,
know, it's
but
like there you
just
go.
hands.
That's hands. That was it for the avatar stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, so that's what we have. Some of our pre-avatar thingamajigs.
Yeah.
I'm gonna X out of that and get up our next bit of
Making games is
neatness.
tough.
It's a lot of work. It's
It's
a lot of fun.
It's a lot of fun. I mean, it really is. It is. There are
is a lot of
definitely
work.
days where you're like, every technological thing that could go wrong did go wrong, and now everything is, my hard drive is filled. I can't, everything has gone wrong. But other days where you're like, wait a minute, I'm making video games with some of
this
my
is
best
awesome.
friends.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah,
Every day it's great to wake up and come in.
it is
So
nearly every day.
this next batch of art that we're showing off, I added this because a lot of people like to talk about environments. Are we going to have different environments? What are we doing here? And it's something that we've already thought of in concept. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, so for those of you who've been playing, you've seen the same kind of, you have the base map, right, the arena, and then outside of that we have an environment. So the long-term plan is to actually do unique environments, and we can swap them out based on events or seasons.
Or your
Or
preference.
eventually your ability to say, as you're building a map, you'll have options to actually change
Yeah.
the environment. So if you wanted to do a winter or at night or...
Yeah, or like you want to do
Underwater?
a spooky
I don't know.
underwater. Yeah, we talked about underwater
Or
stuff. We
space.
talked about yeah, we talked about
Space,
a bunch
yeah,
of
that
different
was-
stuff.
Yeah, and then we started doing that kind of stuff. That I'm like, oh, we could affect the physics, and then like, what if we turn gravity down, right? So
all these conversations,
the
we've
dreams,
had
man,
them.
the
Yeah,
dreams.
the dreams.
A lot of dreams.
So
Yeah.
this is a good example. When we started talking about in this particular exercise, we were looking at landmarks. So one of the things, because all the maps are different, like would it be useful to actually have, go towards, the Skull Waterfall or go towards the mountain or, so it'd be interesting as people are building maps and giving us feedback to tell us, like, does that actually help? I almost feel like it feels ambient. more than actually helpful, right? Because you're so immersed in the actual map that the players are building that I'm not sure that the environment stuff is something people are going to use, but it's definitely something we talked about, right? Like,
and I think
that
what
could
helps
be
directionally,
a point of reference.
Right. And what's different about our stuff is that it is so dynamic. We are really looking at a world of maps worlds and worlds of maps. Right. Quirks, levels that these people are creating, and it is kind of weird to say, this. You're always looking at the mountain for north, or you're always looking at. The mini map helps out tremendously. Right. It really does make a big difference. That's great.
So this is one example. I would love, by the way, ask the community to send us ideas.
Yeah,
we would love
for
different types of things like this, different types of environments.
Themes, environments, things, that
you guys would want.
This
is just an example of more detail when you get into that, what those landmarks might actually look like. I'm trying to think what else is in here. And this is as we start to actually talk about terrain, and there's a level of this is an example where there's too much detail on this, and that was some of the feedback. It just feels interesting, but it actually feels like it needs to be simplified down a little bit.
Yeah, little painterly. Yeah.
Yeah, I think a bunch of these.
Here we go. So as an art director with artists, you push them to the other extreme, right? What happens if you go simplify down to simple shapes and mountains are made out of squares or geometric objects? So we definitely explored the more realistic versus the more kind of voxel interesting kind of what does it look like if you build out a shape.
So looking at the two extremes and the process that you go through, a lot of folks are really into the notion of making video games. How do you do that? Because they often don't get a look at what it means because there's so many moving parts, so much going on, and stuff we need 4 or 5 days to describe it to you. But when you're working with artists and you're creating this, dialogue with them about what it is you're looking for, how has it, you clearly enjoy it. You're great at it. I guess you don't always have to love what you're good at. But what are some of the things and the tricks and the steps that you do? Because you're also working with creatives. Right. And they're all over the place, lots of different personalities. Some are very disciplined. Right. Some are very, I'm an artist,
I've worked with both.
Yes. Yeah, right? And so talk to me a little bit about that process and how does it differ for those different personalities? Or do you really embrace one set of principles and it applies to everybody?
Well, I definitely adapt to the different personality styles, right? And kind of find their strengths and weaknesses and kind of figure out what gets them going in the right direction. Yeah. So for this stuff, I really start with any of this, I have to create some parameters and boundaries. Yeah. Because there's too many options. Yes. Right? So I go through this process of narrowing it down to, coming up with the idea of it being, very faceted and, that kind of thing. And then saying, okay, here's what I'm thinking. Now, give me something that you think I would expect, but also give me something that's outside of what I would expect. I want to push, surprise me, push me outside my comfort zone. I'm going to push you outside your comfort zone so that we get those surprises. Yeah. I want to see the unpredictable stuff because a lot of stuff gets inspired by that. Yeah. And there have been times where I've seen something that I didn't necessarily ask for. Yeah. That actually is oh my God, that's brilliant.
Sure.
And let's pull that in and explore that some more. So it's you ask for the task, but also say, okay, now push it, pull it and push it into a place that, allows them to be creative. Yep. And put in their own flavor and kind of
fingerprints on there. Yeah. What's interesting about this too is that oftentimes because we're in a small office and we've worked together for years, but we have an open air office space. Interesting to hear you riff with people because you don't just do it with the artists, right? When there's some new art to be looked at, people will say, "Hey, come check out." Or we'll kind of sneak over and take a look at stuff. Right. You take feedback really well. Is that a learned skill?
Yes. Well, it's not everybody's good at it, giving it and getting it. My personality, though, is I'm always trying to improve, right? And I definitely am learning all the time, even after shipping 50 games. Yeah. Because the world is changing, preferences are changing. Yeah. All those things are changing. So I'm always learning. So I'm always open and receptive. And I'm also looking for artists that are open and receptive. You have to be good at taking feedback and giving feedback because I think we all push each other to be better.
Yeah.
And so I just attract those kinds of artists.
I was going to
No,
say,
like-
you really have, like, the people that you've been able to kind of bring in, you know, Jack and Chylin, you know, Matt kind of came,
Yeah.
you know, but you create an environment of, let's talk about this,
Yeah.
or let's get some feedback. And oftentimes we'll be riffing on something, Timber and I will be, and then suddenly someone's making a thing because we've
Yeah.
shared feedback, or one of our community members will say, I really want this, and Sarah will be like, yes!
Yeah, done.
no.
Yeah, let's do it.
The other thing too is hiring people that are really good at their craft, and allowing them to be good at their craft,
Getting out
and
of
to
the way.
use their talent, right? So I don't. I try not to micromanage or really manage a person. I really like give somebody direction, say this is what I need, now go do the thing. And a lot of times they'll come up with better ideas than I can come up with.
Right.
Right. So.
Well, it's very empowering for, you know, folks to kind of get a sense of that. Is that, in your experience, either of you, and Kel, you too, is that unusual in the industry?
It can be, for sure.
I think it's unusual in life, like outside of the industry.
Yeah, sure.
You know, is being able to give and take and have that, and you know,
I would agree with that statement.
yeah, like even the simplest things, like a grocery, like, hey, what if we had potato? I don't want potato. You know, it's something that I think
Arbitrary weirdness.
Yeah,
You're like, what? Yeah.
Yeah, like adults, you know, I think that's part of being an adult
Right.
in general, and in any career, in any industry, is to be able to work with people and be adaptable. Is my number one word, is be adaptable.
Right.
Mine is B. Aggressive. B.
No.
Yeah,
What's
like
that?
nothing should be taken personally, and nothing should be precious. I don't think, you know, in
No, I
in a
agree.
sense.
No,
Right, and if it is
Yeah.
precious, let's talk about it.
Right.
Then I
Yeah.
understand. Yeah, that's great.
I have definitely worked with designers and artists who believe that their ideas are the best ideas, or
Yes,
like,
yeah. Which is
and
sort
I just-
of why I brought it up.
I just don't gravitate towards those type of people, and I don't think those people gravitate towards me because I have opinions and I will
Yeah.
share them, always respectfully. But
No, it's not
you
like
know,
it's not like a
right.
fight. It's really a
No,
dialogue. It's really a
it's-
conversation.
yeah.
And
Yeah.
oftentimes I'll go, I don't know, and you'll go, well, with this, I'll be like, of course,
Yeah.
you know. And so it's nice to be able to let go and let people do a thing, and also
absolutely.
share your thoughts. And sometimes, you know, it gets in, sometimes it doesn't. But
I've also learned over the years, right? I'm a perfectionist.
You
know
are.
that.
woman.
But I've learned to, you know, let go of the things that really
And
that
it's
I've
legit.
learned.
Yeah.
Right. That certain things matter, certain things don't matter. And, you know, definitely, you know, put your fist down when it does, but really allow people to be creative and let things evolve naturally, or push it when it needs to be pushed and pulled when it needs to be pulled.
Yeah, and it's interesting. There are times, you know, both of us as people who, you know, are kind of founders, like we have like our veto. Like,
Right.
I am against this. I don't know that in this environment we've ever really done that.
No, because this group is really
So
collaborative that
amazing.
way.
We've
Yeah.
literally put things to votes.
Yeah.
And,
Yes.
like
We
Jess
have.
has been like this thing, and we've outvoted the executive producer, and he's like, all right.
But
well,
he's like,
we're
okay,
doing this,
you know,
we're
yeah,
doing this
he'll
direction,
even say,
let's
I
do
don't know
this."
that I'm super happy about this, and you can even see it on his face, but he rolls with it.
No,
And
but
that's
he's
just
he's
kinda-
great about it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's so, but that's so cool to work in that environment, to know
Yeah.
that like
Yeah.
I have that voice, and everyone has that voice.
And that's
within
definitely
the studio.
you know, kind of circles back to what Jeanne was talking about. That is the establishing of a culture that that affords and, you know, allows that kind of stuff to happen. What are we showing next?
Oh yeah, let's see. We got just some more sketches. And,
Oh, I like this.
yeah.
The Mesa.
Yeah, and heads up, chat, you guys are in front of me. I am not looking into space. I am looking at you guys. You jerks.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah,
it was like we're
exactly.
like looking up into the. We're looking at you.
Yeah.
Remember, if you've got questions, let us know. We're far away from the chat, so if you've asked a question and we didn't see it, please feel free
Yeah.
to ask it again. And if we
like
ignore
this.
it that time, it
Yeah.
means we don't want to answer it. Ooh, that's cool.
Yeah, this was just some color exploration.
Yeah.
You know,
Who did this?
this
one of our
early conceptors. Yeah, this is all of this stuff is like we're literally pulled out of, like the back of the closet in the box. Yeah.
So great. I remember watching you pull the video. I cannot wait. But I remember watching you with the video, and I was like, "What are you that?" I forgot how bad it was.
I can't believe it. Yeah, when I looked at it, it was pretty amazed.
Let's see what else we have. Yeah, I had to get. Okay, so we're. Ooh, these are both really good. How much time do we have?
Oh, plenty.
Okay,
20 minutes.
Cool.
Plenty of time.
So I was really excited about this portion because really it's about the players in Q.U.I.R.K, but we have a lot of ideas for things outside of the players. So
yeah, well, yeah, there's the kind of a backstory, right?
There is. Do we want to tell it? I don't.
We have the storyboards.
You want to
do you want to do the storyboards first? Yeah, I think that might be
do we want to? I guess we can. So understand here's the caveat. I actually love this kind of stuff, and I think it's important to share it, and I think it's important for us to remember where we've come from and how far we've come. But things that you see and ideas and suggestions and the future is really dependent on many different factors, not the least of which is how much time we've got to get that stuff in. And we never enough time. So some of the things you're going to see here aren't necessarily things that will come to fruition. But if people were super passionate about a thing, we could probably make it happen.
Yeah, and I think it's important to show
it's also,
the history.
Yeah, it's just part of the process, right? Because we talk about what the story is, like why does Q.U.I.R.K exist, and like how do you get here? And as we were playing around with the VR, like the idea, I was very excited about the idea of building this immersive experience.
Yeah.
And so one of the exercises we go through is that whole kind of intro into the game. And so we did a series of storyboards that basically walk you through kind of like what happens when you first get into the game.
Yep.
So the game.
While you're explaining, I'm going to step away for just 2 seconds so you explain it, but I'll be right.
So basically, the idea is that this is all taking place in your garage. And you're a teenager or whatever, you're in your dad's garage, and you go into this room, and there's this kind of workbench or something you see in front of you, and there's this crate on it, and there's like the spotlight is on it, so like you can't miss that there's this box you need to look at. You're kind of, what's going on? And when you walk up to the table, it actually has ideally your name on it. So if you had created a username, UGW Lavender, it would say, hey, this is the property of me. And I'm like, oh my gosh, this is my box.
This is my box.
I must open it. So you basically, open up the box, and inside there are these interesting, artifacts, whatever you want to call them. There's these things in there, gadgets,
steampunk VR.
Yeah, right. And so you see that these things are inside, and you basically reach out. It tells you to put the goggles on, and you put the goggles on, and the world kind of changes. So you're getting basically this look into this different view of the world, right? So you go through this exercise of you set this device on the table, you've got energy and thing happening around it, and the orb that it kind of the quirk, right?
That we were talking about earlier,
kind of comes out of it, basically is behind you. And when you turn around, what looked like an empty garage before, you now see quirks everywhere. And there's a keeper, which is this kind of, in this exercise, was kind of like a little gnomey
like
dude, house elf dude that is basically tending to the quirks that you now can see. So cute. And he's like, oh my gosh, you're here. We're so excited. So he's been waiting for you. Like there's this energy shortage in the universe, and you can help set things right. And it was just kind of that, what are quirks, right? So it was just us kind of starting to lay down some. So these are exercises we go through, and there's different versions of this or whatever, but the idea that there are keepers and that quirks are energy, and that you have this ability to interact with quirks and build things and kind of feed the world and make it a better place is basically what they are.
Yeah.
So anyways, yeah. So
well, it allows us to hang a hat on some stuff too.
Yeah.
So how much of that actually comes to, hopefully get to bring some of that to actual light. And I would love the idea of there actually being keepers in the universe that you can interact with. Yeah. And
we talked about different
and then
roles.
Like a loose story for sure. Like we've had very long meetings of like what is the substance behind it,
and what's the, like the player's role in this?
Very cool. And while this is not in-game and may not make it in-game at all, if not for a very long time, and we do want to stress that, I think it's safe to say that you'll probably see at least influences in the future.
And you already
to
are
this.
to some degree, you know, but it is a really interesting look into the process because games and stories and all that are important. Did we already peep these? Not yet.
Not yet. We want to do the storyboard for, oh my, my heart. It's so cute.
So most of this stuff we're going to look at is just exploration as like what keepers could potentially look like. And, you know, the idea that they're the house elf or something you want to interact with and that they're kind of cute and...
my favorite is the bottom left.
We got the thumb
He's
back.
like, yeah, he's a little herp-a-derp. I like him.
He's great.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's so
I want
good.
to call him Barry.
Barry.
This was here that when I was mentioning before that where we're talking about like what if it doesn't have a body, it's like an outfit or you know it's just head, torso, hands and feet or whatever. So it's just an exploration and different costumes and things like that.
You're not scary. What universe are you people in, chat?
I really
Speaking
liked
of
when our baddies got in because back in the day we just had like some pretty weird baddies.
Well, they were like canned art assets from Unity.
So they were weird looking. None of the art fit together. You'll see it, but those are cool looking.
Yeah, and it seems so fantasy to compare to the game as it is. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Like we definitely dialed a lot of that in. Like I didn't want it to be too genre specific. I wanted the builders, right? People who are building maps to be able to put their own influence on what the game was.
Interesting.
And if I lean too far one way or the other, then you kind of set this feel and tone that I didn't want to set.
The notion that you have sort of worked with people to create more of a canvas that was nice to look at, but wasn't really genre specific.
People weren't influenced one way or another.
That's really great. That's an interesting insight into the depth that you really have to think about. How does all of this in concert impact what a player does in your world?
Right.
That's great.
For sure. This is like a typical lineup. It helps us address scale and kind of put them next to each other and go like, you know, maybe the house elf feels a little too fantasy.
Yeah.
So we wouldn't actually use that house elf at this point, but, you know, it just allows you to look at them together before you actually get them into the game.
I think that's pretty close to where we landed on
for the baddies,
too,
for sure.
Yeah.
We definitely pushed them. They're definitely elemental at this point, right? So they're, you know, we could do a rock one or an ice one, so we definitely landed on the baddies being elemental. And you know, these are exercises for like how they're actually going to get modeled, like how we're actually going to build them.
The pieces. Sure, I like
how
it.
they go together. And there you can actually see something that feels way more faceted, like maybe if they were stone. So these are actually explorations on baddies. So you can tell where we landed.
Yeah.
Right. But we're, you know, the whole like our baddies creatures, like what are they?
These are terrifying.
Yeah, some of these
They are pretty terrifying.
which is why we ended where we ended up.
Yeah.
Ooh, the second from the last one is like nightmare status.
Yeah, so these were a whole like what if baddies are like it's a single form, but it's the masks that change, right? Versus the form that changes. So that was just an exploration in like, you know, what happens if it's just the masks? But they're a little creepy.
They are a little creepy. You know, we have you know in the past talked a lot about, you know, flying creatures and the
maybe
like.
even pets one day.
Yeah, Timber's running the pet.
So here's where we dialed down, but these are a little buggy, but also not
They're
quite.
insectoid.
They're more
Yeah,
insectoid.
yeah.
We got
like,
some Cthulhu action going on. This is
again,
so cool.
The thumb.
We really had we have Monsters Inc. in there.
Like I was gonna say, yeah, totally.
Yeah, there you go.
Wow.
Yeah, so again.
Ew, I don't like Goo Ghost.
Goo looks like a melting thumb.
Like, yeah.
Because you want them to
I've looked into the ark.
You want them to look like something you want to get away from.
I would definitely want to step on
because
it.
they're baddies, right? Like you don't want them to be too cute. Like
Right.
you want them to be a little ominous.
Yeah.
But there's this line, right, where it's like,
I feel like ours
it's
is just like if you're a weird kid, like I think our baddies are really cute. You might
Right.
think they're cute, but they're also a little menacing.
Right.
We're all weird kids
I
here.
want to
Yeah.
hug the baddies we have.
yeah. I
Not
do
if it's
too.
slimy like that.
You don't like the
Okay.
slimy.
No,
Yeah.
not melt.
So that's it for the early concepts on the baddies.
I love it.
Goo thumb.
Those are some.
Yeah,
of
I
my
think the baddies need to
favorites.
be a little cute too, like just
Yeah.
the
A
game
little
in
bit.
general. Yeah.
Do you have anything? I think that's it on that. So that is what I have for our concept art. And I know you guys have been waiting very patiently, and you're as excited as we are to show off. This was, I believe,
We need one.
Was
We
this
need
our
a mini
very
rainfall.
first demo
Yes.
that we had?
Yeah. I'm trying to think of the context. Why did we
I hope it
create
wasn't
this?
just showing.
It was. It really was. Like,
know.
yeah,
I
that
mean,
is.
early on, we created videos to kind of show where the game was at if the build was being really unstable or.
Can you guys speak to, just before we show the video, what the game concept was before we even had this video? It was a little...
UGC was
just-
always part of the deal, right?
For sure,
Yeah.
yeah. I mean, Justin and Greg have been working on an actual demo well before we had an office.
Yeah.
For quite a while, and
It was hilarious when you and Jess and I met. We sat down and talked. I can't remember where we were specifically, but we sat down and with David and we were looking at trying to get the build to work.
Yeah.
Couldn't get it to work at all. But then when
was
we
a demo,
saw it,
yeah.
we were like, you know what?
it was all placeholder.
We
art,
love each other.
but it was the idea of building and
Yeah.
the arena, like that existed from the beginning.
The
right? Yeah.
UGC stuff, allowing
Right.
people to make their own thing, was something that we were in on from the beginning. Yeah. There's something really exciting about that notion.
Yeah.
The art style and stuff. You saw the evolution. Timmer's downloading the video, but it's interesting. If I think about, had I seen that.
So
And-
the very first demo actually had like a little white picket fence and
Storefronts. Yeah.
And this video we'd done a little bit of work. So like you see the very early low poly mountains.
Yeah.
We still had what we called Construction Girl.
Don't like
We're
her.
going to see Construction Girl.
Who was our generic like Unity asset
Yeah.
character and see the character we were running around, avatar we were running out as.
Can we get an avatar customization of her outfit as seen in this video? It's like a little Easter egg.
We'll leave it up to you.
Yeah, right, yeah.
But if I were to see those art assets and it would have been the first time that I was ever working on a game, I'd just be like,
That was before me, though. So, like, it was all about just function.
Yeah.
Right? So, early on, it was very much just about, can the concept work?
right.
And then...
And
so
that's
it was
really
all
what I
using
mean.
just canned assets.
Because
right?
after
Yeah.
a while, you kind of grow, I don't want to say a callus, but you can sort of look into the code and see what it's going to be, knowing that, you've got to kind of turn off a piece of your brain that
To
likes
not look at it,
things.
yeah. Don't look at it.
Don't look at it.
Just pretend.
Just pretend.
It's the whole use your imagination.
Use your imagination.
Yeah.
Yeah, are we ready?
No.
Not
Okay.
yet. Yeah.
Sorry, it's given me a little bit of grief, and I think I know why. I think it's...
But here's the other interesting thing. When you see this, I want you to remember that what you see and what we have now, that really happened. The core of it really happened within the span of 9 months, 10
Easy, yeah.
months. And because, you need the time to kind of figure stuff out. We switched offices 3 times. This is our 3rd office
Yep.
because we, growing. But the first time we were in a closet.
Yep. Literally, like, it was a one-person office
Yeah.
that we had 6 people in or 5 people in? 5.
5 was it? It was 5. Yeah,
Yes,
yeah. It's
so we
5.
had 5 people in, and you sat at your desk, and the person next to you, their chair hit the back of your chair. And
It was very small.
we were only there for like a month and a half.
But I really look back
Right.
on that space and that time
Yeah.
with fondness. It
Yes.
was a very exciting.
it was awesome.
time.
I was super stoked.
Yeah. And then we moved into our other space, which was fine for a while,
Yeah.
but again, a smaller office, but made for more than one human.
Yes, it was me. But
Yeah.
there was 8 of us in that space.
that was a lot. And then we got to the point where we're like, this isn't going to fit anymore.
people.
You know, Timber rolled in and we're like, okay, Timber, you can share a desk with me.
Literally a closet. Sorry.
But in that time, you take the
played.
time to kind of figure out what the concept is. And you take the time to get to, it's Jeanne also is really central in the building of the team morale and making sure people are connecting and making sure that that the process allows for a lot of different feedback and all of that. Well, that takes some time to build, not just specific to developing it, but there's a whole team dynamic that needs to come to fruition. 3 months in, then we start to really go, I get it. This is it. And then it starts to build, and then we start to kind of, add that third heat, as it were, which is the community. And they start giving us feedback, and we, move and evolve over there. So, 9-10 months is where the bulk of it was like, we got it. We know what it is now. And we've been on a roll ever since.
Yeah. Yeah, the first step is really making sure that it functions as you expect. You don't want to invest a lot of time in art or the visual style because there's so much work that can get thrown away if you're not careful.
Right.
So it was really making sure that it worked right. And then once we knew that, like, oh, this is going to be fun, then it's like, okay, you kick it up another notch with the art, you kick it up another notch with the UI. Yeah. And it's still very much, an evolution. There's pages and pages of wires and mock-ups and comps and, of what we envision it being. And that stuff just takes time. So
and it is pretty remarkable that UI, UX, so UI, user interface, for those who aren't familiar, UX, user experience, they're different, but there's a Venn diagram where they kind of, they're different disciplines. But even adding just a drop of that to
makes
the game.
Huge difference. Yeah. Huge difference.
It's mind blowing.
So I think Kelly has it on her end because this laptop turns out doesn't have an MP3 player. Whoops. Professional.
That poor laptop, yeah.
So as soon as that's up, she's gonna play it. We're gonna watch it on delay with our viewers.
Nice.
So everything will be not in real time at all, but that's okay.
Okay, let me try.
Okay.
It's playing.
It's playing. Yep. All right. Oh, are you going to turn it for us?
Hey,
oh, that's perfect. All right,
can everybody
get out of
see
here.
it?
Oh, yeah.
All right.
So, yeah, definitely we're not, everything's pretty early on placeholder. You can
You'll
tell
remember,
the lighting's pretty harsh.
Yeah.
The red bazooka placeholder thing was kind of placeholder for a lot of things. It was a weapon, depending on its orientation. So if it's in a vertical orientation, it's a jetpack.
Yeah.
If it's in a horizontal orientation, it's an actual weapon. The lighting is obviously like things are super shiny and like super high contrast.
The UI.
So this is what you do when you're demoing. It's like,
wow, this is a total
engineering UI.
It is
This
Look at that. Look at those.
I
there's
forgot.
construction
There's construction girl.
Take away.
She's out.
That's her jetpack.
I like that she's walking into the
There's no way to fix this. And then our placeholder crows.
The crows, yeah.
For ambiance.
It's funny.
They really work.
There's a single level that was made
back in the day.
and
There's still some crows. I think it's
crows.
Is it the ship?
It's the boat one.
Those crows were up. They were fun. Oh, look at this! This is so funny. This is the old Capture the Flag.
Yeah. So this is early on with Capture the Flag. There's our first.
There's our first turret.
Yeah.
One point. 1 point.
Oh my god.
Too loud, Zion.
Gotcha. Yeah, we can't hear the audio.
There we go. We got you. Thank you, Dylan.
Wow. Good job. You leveled up.
leveled up.
I was like, level up.
Two
violent. Wow.
Too violent.
Oh man.
But look, physics are working.
Yeah.
Like
We had a blast playing this.
We can run around and shoot each other.
Crows are in there.
Yeah.
They're just hanging.
The other crows are everywhere. Yeah, it's great.
It's just like, wow.
Yeah, the fire hydrant bazooka. Yeah, it was great. We used it for everything.
We really did. We really, really did. But this is really sort of the beginning of,
Q.U.I.R.K in the early days.
Q.U.I.R.K in the early days before it was
And it's funny, you
Q.U.I.R.K.
can definitely still see remnants of this demo, like not in any real, like, but there's still those purple blocks, and there's
Yes.
still, you know,
Yeah.
we
The cardboard
have
boxes.
the cardboard boxes just changed.
And those really spiky mountains.
and those super spiky.
Wow, that is really
They're very aggressive.
They're very aggressive is a good term for
Yeah.
this whole demo, really.
Yeah, it is.
It's
Wow.
great, yeah.
Um,
So yeah.
The second one, please.
Let's see. I think we only had the one.
What's
Yeah,
going
that was the
on?
only
Oh,
demo
you see
video
us
that
now?
we had.
What's epic fail?
Oh yeah, when you at the end of the match it says
Oh, it
epic
says epic fail. I remember that. I remember that. Yeah, I remember that.
Epic.
Yeah. I will tell you, you know, it is working with a woman of strength and power, and the talent and the depth of your caring for the user experience and your, you know, it's one thing people always talk about. I love community. Oh yeah, I love community. Oh. It's like me saying, "Oh yeah, I'm an artist. I'll art some stuff. I gotta make a pop
Please
here
don't.
on level 3 or whatever." You're like, "Please don't." Yeah, they don't let me make art.
No.
But you know, you are a true talent, a joy to work with, and have taught us so much about presentation and layout and all that stuff. You know, I'm learning every day from you. It's been, it's a, you know, I could work myself up into tears over it just because I adore you. You know, thank you for spending time with us.
Yeah, it was
today.
fun.
Yeah, thank
Yeah.
you.
It was a lot of
Yeah,
fun.
and you know, honestly, I feel like we stopped at a great place because there's more to show.
Yeah, we could literally have
We'll do it
spent
again,
3
for sure.
hours.
Yeah.
But yeah, well, thank you, Jeannie.
You're welcome.
So much, and thank you guys all for taking the time out of your day to hang out with us and, you know, go on a journey to Way Back Wednesday hashtag, and checking out Q.U.I.R.K before it was even really Q.U.I.R.K. like the hashtag.
Hashtag blessed.
Of course, you can check us out on the VOD on YouTube when we have this uploaded. If you missed partial to it, it's definitely worth checking out.
Yep.
Don't forget to like and subscribe. You can also catch updates
crying.
and pictures
Don't cry.
on our Twitter and our Instagram. Our Instagram is
Sorry.
uGen _ unlocked for our Instagram, and then Twitter at Play Q.U.I.R.K, Facebook at Play Q.U.I.R.K. We're always posting sneak peeks into both the future and the past, which are all kind of related. So definitely worth checking out. I need my dates here.
Before you jump into that, I also want to say super kudos to Timber for thinking about this idea. I think that it is really one of those opportunities to show off how far we've come, but also to give you a peek into what it is that we do when we're not on here, you know, being idiots, which is generally what Timber and I do every day, all day.
Our job description.
But if you really does, yeah, hashtag blessed. But if you're seeing this and you're like, wait a minute, I want to know more about how this works or how that works or who's responsible for this. Great questions today, but think about the stuff that you want to see in the future.
Yep.
You know, Timber and I are always full of good ideas, and so it'll be hard to really have an idea better than ours. So I don't want to discourage you. Give it a shot. Maybe
Please
we'll
give it
do
a
it.
shot.
Probably already
Don't
tried.
rely on us.
Listen to him.
Please. And of course, the best way to get a hold of us is probably our Discord at discord.gg/playquirk.
Yep.
We even have channels called Ask a Dev, Feedback, and
Yep.
things like that. So we're always listening to what you guys have to say.
And we're all in there. All of us are.
Yeah.
So if you want to, you know, send Jeannie a note and just say, listen, you're amazing and you've inspired me to turn my life around and I'm going to be a better person, let her know. Let her know.
Yes.
But if you have other ideas or things you'd like to see, or if you just, you know, want to hang out and have a chit chat with us, we'll do that too.
Yeah, absolutely. And of course, our weekly news as we wrap this up, you can check out the level approvals tomorrow. We'll be having that on the 14th, so get those levels in. I try to do it later in the day to give you time to finish them. And then we have our happy hour this Friday on the 15th. We still do not have a streamer, so if you are interested or know somebody who would be a really good fit, go ahead, let me know in our Discord, send me a note or an email or however you want to get a hold of me, and we'll get it hooked up. And then Maker Monday will be our next stream. That's going to be the 18th.
On December 18th?
What?
You're blowing out the mic a little bit.
Sorry.
Always
I turned it way down 'cause
something
I was
loud.
afraid you were gonna- Anyway, sorry to interrupt you.
So Maker Monday on the 18th, and then the next Behind the Blocks will be, of course, on the 20th, right before our holiday vacation. So.
All right. Hey, you know what else is going on Monday?
But
What?
Something amazing.
I know.
Do you know?
I know.
Yeah.
Do you know?
Do you know?
Yeah. Do we tell?
Yeah.
It's his birthday.
Yay!
Yay! We're so excited.
It's
Yeah.
Troy's birthday.
Yeah, Troy, you're turning 18?
Yeah.
28.
28.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah, I guess-
28.
He has to be 21 to drink, so he needs to be 28.
Oh, that's fair
That's
enough.
true.
Fair enough.
Yeah. Because I'll be drunk on Monday. But,
All day.
all day long. We may also, one of the things that have followed me from place to place with Jeannie is the birthday song, which we
Oh.
might have to actually do.
Ooh,
let's do it
Maker
live.
Monday.
Let's do it.
Expletive, let's do it live.
We can,
I like it.
yeah.
We can do it.
That too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or we can pre-record it.
She's like, don't blow out the mic.
Yeah, you might want to pre-record it so you can control the volume just a little bit.
Just a little bit, yeah.
Oh, and
It's an
yeah, I'll get a
experience.
video for that. Night.
I like
That's all
it.
I'll keep
Right
it.
on. Cool.
Awesome. Anyway, thank you guys so much, and we'll catch you on the flip side. Goodbye.
Bye, everyone.
Yay, bye.
That was great. Thank you, genius.
You're welcome.
I just could sit in here and talk for hours and hours about how amazing you are.
You guys are so sweet.